Welcome to Let's Get Writing. I'm your host, Catherine Taylor. Well, this is a show all about the writing process from creation to publication. And here's where you can find inspiration, ideas, and meet the people behind the stories you read. We bring life to books. And remember, if you have a question, be sure to share it in the comments, and we'll do our best to get back to you in the next few days. And today, my guest is a proud fisherman's daughter, born and raised on Change Islands, Newfoundland and Labrador. Well, after 25 years in Ontario, she did what a lot of good Newfoundlanders do. She moved back home, and she now resides in Lewisport, Newfoundland, where she is a full-time writer. And her published works include a book of poetry, 3 novels, and a collection of short stories, and most recently, a novella. So she's busy. When she says she's writing, she's actually writing. And more than that, one of her books is going to the moon. And joining me now is Carolyn R. Parsons. And Carolyn, welcome to Let's Get Writing.
Thank you. I feel like I'm ready to launch to the moon with all this gear. I've got all the equipment.
I know, we were fooling around. You know, when you get to see a show out there, there's a bit of techie stuff that happens behind the scenes when we get set up, but we get there. We eventually get there. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, here we are.
So, Carolyn, I think let's start with what's most intriguing, and tell me about this, about your writing that's actually going to the moon. What's that all about?
Oh, yes. So it's a fun project. I happened upon it just from, being engaged on social media and participating in a lot of writers groups. And I'm particularly involved in a independent writers group that because I do have some projects that are coming up that I plan to do independently. I don't plan on going the traditional publisher route just because I there's some freedom about that I like and the kind of projects they are. So I was very engaged in some of those groups, and one of the authors in one of those groups, the host of the group actually, had purchased space on a lander that is going to the moon on a moon mission. And she purchased it originally for her own body of work. She's got a significant number of novels, and decided we've got lots of space on this thing. I think I'm going to invite some other writers along and make it a, time capsule of independent authors and their work going, into space, into the moons. And so it's a time capsule, basically, a Writers on the Moon time capsule. So I applied. There was a call, and they were going to take 50 authors, and I applied, and I won. I won a spot on the mission.
How exciting!
It was very exciting, very exciting. I saw it and saw the call, and I went, I have to try. You can't lose. And so it ended up, she expanded it. 125 authors are actual Writers on the Moon payload people. We are on the manifest as having a spot in the file, but then some of us included other people. I have the works of 3 other authors included in mine, but some people had lots of time and they included a whole lot more. I believe there are somewhere around 40 Canadians that are have a spot in some fashion, and but as far as I know, I'm the only one from this province.
Oh, well, we're happy to be represented. So thank you for doing that and taking it on. So conceivably, this writing goes up to the moon, and maybe someday someone finds the time capsule and gets a glimpse at what we were doing. Is that basically the outcome for this?
Yes, I think, Susan K. Quinn is the author that organized Writers on the Moon. And she has an interesting story. First of all, she's a scientist by trade. She has a PhD in I don't know if it's astrophysics or some kind of thing. I don't know what it
Something
is.
we
If I
don't
knew what it
have.
was called, I wouldn't know what it was. And so she had worked in that field, and so does her husband. And her father actually worked on the Apollo missions in some capacity, worked on the engines, I believe. And so she has a connection to that industry. And so when she decided to do this, it was about, I think, sort of connecting her two loves, right? Because she is now a science fiction writer. And the art and the science, go together so much more than people realize. And so this way, and last year and this year have been particularly difficult for most people on the planet. And so she wanted to show, I guess, what artists were doing, what writers were doing during this period of time, which will be historically relevant, and that we are resilient, and that we were still making art, and that we were still writing our stories, and that a lot of them are full of optimism and hope. And we were just still creating despite all the turmoil around us. So she wanted to have that sort of snapshot saved. And so it will go to a moon in digital format, but there will be a Earth presence as well, because she will have a website that will feature the 125 of us that won a spot on her mission. And there it is.
Yeah, I just thought
I
I'd
am
add that up there.
Manifest 40. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's 125 of us, and I was number 40. So Manifest 40. When you go to the website, Writers on the Moon, it will have a web story talking about my, part of it, and about the whole mission in general. And it's very exciting. The launch will take place later in the year. I follow on Twitter. The rocket ship is called the Vulcan Centaur, and the lander that will actually take our time capsule to the moon is called the Peregrine. So it's the Peregrine lander. So it's very exciting. There's going to be merch sold by this company that built the lander, and you can get your official patch from that. So it's very exciting. And I watched the moon landing with my uncle when I was just a wee little girl. I do not remember it, but my uncle decided that I should watch it. He was going to watch it anyway, and he was babysitting. And he thought it'd be really good to be able to tell us that we did watch it, even though we may not remember it. And so I know I've seen it, and it's always been a story.
Yeah, I think I also saw that moon landing, but back then the big old Zenith TV, black and white in the basement, and you say, okay, I think I can make something out. But that's so exciting. And maybe when the time comes this fall, when everything is launching and so on, you'll be having a little celebration of some kind if you can.
Absolutely. And you can follow the writersonthemoon.com is the website, and you can follow things. There's a newsletter, a blog, and as things unfold, there are videos and photos of the moon box is what everything's going to be in, being loaded onto the lander. The lander's traveled to the launch site, and as the rocket is prepared and things like that. So as we get video and information, it'll be shared there, and eventually we will all be watching the launch together, which I believe will be taking place out of Cape Canaveral. And it's a very special mission because it's the first commercial mission that has gone to the moon, in the sense that these are private companies creating and making this happen. NASA is involved, but as a commercial passenger, more so than as being the facilitator of the project. So it's a very interesting venture in a lot of ways. There's so many pieces to it, but I'm really excited that a bunch of writers are going to have a mini library on the moon, and that my books will be a part of that. I have one book featured, my most recent one, but I actually sent my entire body of work and my family tree. So Catherine, your name will be on the moon too, because you're in that family tree.
I am in that family tree. Here we go again.
There you go.
They say that that things run in families, so obviously writing must run in our family. I know certainly my mother was a lot involved with it, and I guess it's in our blood. What can you
It
say?
is. It is. So wherever you are on Earth, then you'll be able to look at the moon and say, my name is on the moon. It was written in the family tree, which I had already had it. Not a whim. I said, I'm sending everybody in my family to the moon. So, and
Interesting.
yeah. So it's nice to have that connection.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and bravo to you. And I just brought up your book that you mentioned. That's part of the package going to the moon, The Forbidden Dreams of Betsy Elliott. And of course, I read that book. It was a very enjoyable read. And Carolyn, so many of your books link back to Newfoundland. Your poetry. You've got one book too. I'm just Dark Moon Tickle, I believe.
Rare Moon Tickle.
Rare
The
Moon
Secrets of Rare Moon
Tickle.
Which is interesting. My first book was about, the moon featured very prominently in it. Yeah.
Well, maybe you knew something then that you didn't realize that you knew. But well, very, very exciting. And so with your writing, now you've recently done something a little bit different, not the same thing that you've always been doing with your full-length books. You have written a novella, and it is not based in Newfoundland at all. I'll just bring that up. The Key of Impasto. Sounds like a dish.
It says coming soon, but it's actually out. It was released on the 2nd. So this is 2 days ago. I need to get my graphics updated. 2 days ago, it was launched but in ebook. It is coming out in paperback very soon. By Engen Books here in the province, and it's part of a series. So they have a series that they've been running. I think this book is book 11, and every 3 weeks they release an episode, and it's a multi-author project. So they have a pen name plus whoever writes the novel or the novella. And it was a really, it was quite a diversion for me because, first of all, I was invited to write it, asked if I would be interested in doing an episode. And I thought, okay, I'll think about this. And then I thought, do something different and see how it goes. And it's only 25 to 30,000 words. How hard could that be? Well, it was the most challenging writing project I'd ever done, because when you're used to writing books that are full-length novels, you have a lot of time to do the arc and tell the story. And when it's compressed, it's like, okay, so where are things supposed to happen? Like, you sort of develop a muscle for knowing where the action should be. And so I was cutting things out because I have to get to it faster. It took me quite a while to get a handle on what I was doing. Plus, it's YA. So you have to watch the language.
Yeah,
you have to watch,
YA for, which is young adult. Yeah, for people who might not know.
A young adult for people who aren't, people think of young adult being 20s, but it actually goes down. Teenagers watch and read YA books and upward. My grandson is 10 and he will read this. Like, this is, the heroine of the story is Cassidy Kane, and what happens is she goes into different worlds, through portals into different worlds, and she's an archaeologist. So she brings back artifacts that will help us in our world to some degree, or hopefully will. But in my episode, I decided to make it a little bit more difficult for myself. She actually is escorting someone who is in this world back and helping them resolve a problem that has occurred and the reason they left their world and sort of escaped and then go back. So it's a whole science fiction thing that involves not time travel, but jumping through into a different world, a portal here on this planet into a different world. And it involves what I call reductivity, where it's similar to the Doctor Who TARDIS thing, where it's, bigger on the inside. That sort of science fiction happens.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So it was fun to write, and, people are just reading it now. So we'll see how I did in my first foray into sci-fi adult.
Well, it's on my Kindle. I'm sure we'll be talking about it.
And the feedback I'm getting so far is that people seem to enjoy it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun to write. The characters very I don't know, it's a different character. She's spunky and smarty, a bit of a wisecracker. She's just a good character, fun to deal with. And but yeah, it's adventure. So you have to be fast. You have to have that energy and move it. It has to keep going. Kids don't
Well,
they
I
don't
was
have
going to
time
say.
for young people don't have time to read long exposition. They want action and movement. So there's a lot
Interesting.
of that. Yep. And it
Nice.
was fun to write and really good practice, stretched my writing chops quite a bit.
Well, that's the one thing I always find about you, Carolyn. Every time I talk to you, you're always stretching your chops and you're always jumping in and willing and interested to do different things. And how do you think that attitude shapes you as a writer?
I think the thing that I like about writing is that you never stop learning. You never stop finding ways to improve the craft. And I don't care how good you are at it or how long you've been at it. There's always something new to learn. And you know, writing a 60,000 word novel or a 90,000 word novel is completely different than writing a 25,000, 30,000 word novella. Like I said, the story arc is completely different. And so it was very helpful to me, first of all, to get a sense of how that unfolds, but it also solidified that there is a story arc, that it has to do that very determined. You tell a story, it has a beginning, it has some action, and then it resolves. Um, and to do that with someone else's character that had
Mm.
already had 10 episodes in advance of mine was quite a challenge because you want to stay true to her. Um, and I don't know if I did because I hadn't read all 11.
That was going to be my next question.
And
Was
really, I just didn't have
Carolyn?
time, so you're kind of winging it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but I had read some, so I
Mhm,
had a good sense of her. But of course, she's going to grow and change a little bit too, right? So
mhm.
um, I do sometimes take on these things deliberately. I do. I am now like doing courses and just trying to learn the marketing piece a little better, and for specifically for online marketing, just because it's a piece that I don't really have a good grasp of. I have an idea, but I'd like to have
Mhm.
so there's always something to learn. My background is more marketing and communication, but of course, books are communication, right? Art is
Right, they are.
communication,
And again,
and
something that we again share is we both
yes,
worked in
we
marketing and
both we
communication.
both work in marketing,
Yeah,
communication, broadcast,
yeah.
writing. We've lived parallel lives in some ways, and I enjoy that piece of it. I really enjoy learning the new thing and applying it and seeing if it works. And but it's a little bit of a risk too. You take your time away from the thing that people expect you to do, and then you put something out there that it's a completely different audience. And so
Mhm.
you have, but you take chances, and this works well with my next project because I am working on a YA project that is different, but it is a time travel project. So I like writing for that audience. Now I'm getting, my teens are about to leave the house. The last of my four children are about, one is leaving this year and then 2 more years, and the final one will leave. And now I'm starting to write for teenagers. So figure it out. I don't know what's wrong with
I don't
me.
know. I think you missed the boat on that one, but
There's some say maybe I should do some therapy on that because
maybe you will finally have time. Time is
you
a
will.
is a big thing when you're managing a family and quite often other outside work, contracts and so on, and still finding time to write. But you do that better than most people I know. You're very
I
dedicated.
I have, it's a discipline.
It is.
And I do fall off that wagon sometimes, but then I am really pretty good at launching myself back on it. In recent weeks, I have, even the last few days, I have, you know, written probably close to 10,000 words
Mhm.
of the next series. And today I've closed in on 1,000, and this is my day off. It's like, I really try to write every day when I'm working on a project, but
Mhm.
in between projects I don't get too obsessive about, oh, I'm not writing today, I'll never write again. I think that takes some time for writers to realize and trust that they will write again if they
Mhm.
take a break. Because right at the beginning everybody's like, you have to write every day, you have to write every day, because if you don't, you won't write. And so you believe that, you do that, and then you get burnt out. And then you realize, if I take a day off, it means nothing. I will write the next day.
Mhm.
Um, but you have to know yourself, and
Yeah.
but you have to do your writing before you do anything else. I truly believe that you need to get up, block that time, make that appointment as if you were going to the dentist or the hair salon. I'm going to write for 1 hour today or 2 hours today, and you have to sit and do it.
Mhm.
And you have to treat that appointment as if you were going to the dentist and you have a chronic, toothache, and you have to sit there and take the medicine for it. Like that's how I treat it when I'm writing. And so I will, get up in the morning and have a coffee. I allow myself an hour before I start, but I don't do anything else. Like I don't get into any projects of any other kind.
Right. Focused.
It just takes me an hour to wake up because I'm a slow waker. And then I go sit down and I'm there.
Right.
And when the kids are in school in particular, that, they're working, even when they're working here at the house now, it's all the same. I get up when they get up. And when they start school, I start writing.
It becomes a discipline, and I think a commitment to do it. And I've heard that from many other authors, that they set the time and they show up.
Yeah. And there's some other parts that go along with writing, especially if you do some independent projects, which my next one will be. Well, we'll see. I don't know what's going to come first, the independent project or the published. I have another one I have to be published with the publisher too, but that's not till next year. So it depends on how fast I go. But with that, there's marketing. So what I'm doing is writing in the morning and spending my afternoons working on the marketing, which involves some courses and upbuilding a list, because the next book is going to be under a pen name, because I don't want to confuse the readers. I think that was the biggest part with this one, The Key of Impasto, is it's such a diversion, and people are used to Carolyn R. Parsons, historical fiction. I don't think it's a big problem. But I'm going to start a pen name for the series that I'm writing, because it's 4 books, and they're not going to be, they'll probably be set in Newfoundland, but they're not going to be Newfoundland centric.
Right.
They will be just incidentally, this is where they live, just like Stephen King's books are all set in Maine because that's where he lives.
Right.
But they could happen anywhere. So that's where I'm going right now with my next.
It is
project.
Interesting, because you have published with traditional publishing houses. You've done some on your own, and so you do see both sides of that. But I think what I'm hearing from you is that regardless, the marketing and what you're developing is important either way.
It's nobody is going to believe in your work and your project like you are. If you are not the main, cheerleader for your project, your work, your book, whatever it is, then nobody else is going to pick up that. Whether it's getting it to a publisher, you have to be able to pitch that to a publisher and say, this is like the best thing that you could possibly publish right now. If you're going independent, you have to tell the world that. So either way, you're the person who has to sell your story. And stories are meant to be shared. They're not meant to sit in drawers and be hidden away on Amazon. Nobody reads them. They are meant to be seen. And writers are meant to be paid. They're meant to earn money. They're not meant to starve to death in a garret in Paris. Well, maybe that's authors. But anyway, maybe that's artists. But anyway, the starving artist thing, is completely unnecessary. Just because someone makes money at their art doesn't make them any less of an artist. I think that's a story that's been told by artists who aren't doing as well, maybe. But it is okay to earn. So some projects lend themselves well to traditional publishers, and some projects lend themselves well to independent publishing. It all depends on what your goals are and what your project is. And so I found pluses and minuses for each. I love the control of independent publishing. I love that I choose the book cover. I write the blurb. I hire the editor. I can do all of that. I don't like the fact that I have to pay for all that. But then why wouldn't I pay for all that if I believe in my project, right? It's an investment. So I could ask a publisher to invest, or I can do it myself and do my own marketing. So, but some projects do lend themselves better to the independent marketing world. And Some are better for a traditional publisher, but of course it's hard to find a traditional publisher as well. So
and to get your work turned around and out there, because they are on schedules, and it's bottom line, when they take on someone, they have to make sure that that's going to be a project that they feel they can be behind and make money.
I fully expect the first book of this series that I just started, that's about not maybe a fifth of the way done, to be in the hands of readers in 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, big difference.
You do that, and the traditional novel that's coming out that I have a contract signed for is coming out in April of 2022.
Mm-hmm. Big difference.
So yes, and submitted it a few months back, and they liked it and they committed to it, but it's a year out because they've already done their publishing schedule for 2021. So it's a year.
Yeah.
So that's okay though, because I have multiple projects on the go.
Right.
And that's another thing that writers really need to realize is keep writing. Like, you throw a book out there, don't stop, start another one, get at another one, get the next big idea out there, and start working on it. I've got 2 projects going right now.
Absolutely.
One that I will send to a traditional publisher, and the rest will be independent right now. So,
and I do think, Carolyn, as we just draw to a close here, that you shared a lot of wonderful points, and you're such a good example of a writer in action who doesn't stop exploring possibility and opportunity. And if anyone out there is wondering how to begin, you can check Carolyn out. Here's her website.
Message me. I'm always talking to writers.
Yeah, and she's very approachable. She's very active on the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador. She's a rep there. I am the
Central Buren Bonavista rep, but I don't care where you live. If you want to know about where to go with your book, or what your project is, or how to approach a publisher, or anything like that, just send me a message on Facebook, Carolyn R. Parsons on Facebook, and I will talk to you.
And I know you will.
I will. I chat to you all the time.
You're talking to me here and to all the people who are going to watch this, and I very much want to thank you for your time and all the things you shared, and wish you all the best on your moon trip this fall.
Yay. Yeah, let's hope, things can go wrong, but I'm being optimistic that, we'll make it to the moon again. And we've done it before, and we'll do it again. And
you'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be able to look at the moon, and I know the spot. It's, Lacus Mortis, the Lake of the Dead. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but that's where it's going, just north of where Apollo 11 landed. So.
Sounds artistic. Well, thank you so much. And again, to everyone, if you'd like to see more of the Let's Get Writing shows, they are available on YouTube at Catherine Taylor TV. And thank you so much for joining us today. And Carolyn as well, thank you for your time and all the information you shared.